Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Roman and Jill here, back for another episode of our Hometown Conversations. This week, it's just the two of us, I think.
Just us.
So I think, I don't know, we have an agenda, but not really.
It's just kind of the perfect, Friday afternoon, 2 weeks before Christmas, kind of let's just kind of do whatever today.
Right. Now, next time we're together, we're going to have Steve Gosser with us.
Which will be awesome.
Yeah,
I'm really excited to hear what he has to say.
We're going to cover a bunch of stuff.
Yep.
I mean, from leadership to personal development to just, even just talking about the differences of should you make a New Year's resolution or not.
Right.
So a lot of things to talk about, but
that'll be jam-packed, so today is just a little more chill.
Yeah, we're just a little bit more chill. We're just going to hang out. But I had a couple of stories to start us with, which I thought was kind of funny. I mean, they're funny to me because, I'm funny.
Just ask you.
Just ask me.
You are funny.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. But so, I mean, I did post the whole Roomba thing, twerking on the...
You have the most dramatic Roombas
I do.
Anyone. They are always on a cliff, and I would just like to remind them that we live in Midwestern Minnesota.
Right. There's no cliffs unless you get down by Winona or something
But they see a rug, and they're like, stuck on a cliff.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. But so there was that. So I think I'm funny.
You are.
But anyway, I digress. So today, distant learning is one of those things that is just, there's some struggles with it.
Yep.
And it's fine. Right now, my kids seem to be eating everything in my house, which is fine, normally.
They're just there a lot.
Yeah.
They're just around more. And I would just, before you get into the story, I would just like to say, when you say distance learning, the teachers are doing a phenomenal job, but I think even they would agree this is this isn't what school is designed
No, it's
to
not.
be.
It's not designed for it.
They're doing fabulous, but it is
they're getting
whole
by.
thing.
And what I say is what I mean is there's a lot of people that are at home that are just kind of struggling and finally realizing the stuff that teachers have to go through.
Oh, good Lord.
So there's part of that. Mine centers around food. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I get home today. I had to leave this morning and I was out doing something and I came back. And my oldest is like, hey, can you make me some toast? Well, he's in class, so okay, fine, whatever. And I'm kind of hungry myself, so I'm like, fine.
It's toast. It works.
A piece of toast is fine, right? So I pop it in. I eat mine first, whatever. Then I start making his. And when this pops up out of the toaster, I looked at the top of the bread.
Yeah.
And there was like a green tinge to it.
Tinge.
And I thought, My mind, first of all, obviously I'm throwing this away. I didn't look before I threw it in. And then about a minute later, I started realizing that I more than likely ate a piece of toast that had mold on it.
It's penicillin.
Yeah, so
it's
all day.
Basically antibiotics.
All day my friends have been like, nice knowing you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're on your way out?
Yeah, have a great next couple of days because it's going to be great. Mm-hmm. But, who hasn't accidentally, had some bad food at once upon a time? Have you ever had a jug of milk that is no longer good?
Yeah, you really only make that mistake once. I'm if you're ever with me when I pour milk, I smell it, even if I bought it yesterday.
Yeah.
You only make that mistake one time.
Exactly.
And the worst is the time that I made the mistake, thankfully it wasn't just a glass of milk and then I took a swig of it. It was in cereal. So it's an absurd sensation because you've got the cereal and you've got the milk and something is not right. And you're like, what's wrong here? Right? And then you go to the milk and it's bad. But it's a very unsettling experience that you don't want to ever repeat.
No, and I certainly don't want to repeat this, but I didn't see it when I ate it, so I'm hoping that maybe mine was the stuff that was good. So I'm just going to tell myself that, and we're going to move forward.
Well, I'll keep an eye on you in the next few days.
So one of the things that we're going to do today, first and foremost, if you hear us sipping on something in the background.
Yes.
You made a stop past our friends at 3BC.
Yes, and bought a growler.
Yeah.
They are, they can't be open right now, but I did think, you know what, it's Friday afternoon, and why not have a beverage? So we've got a couple pints from 3BC and a growler from 3BC, and life is good.
What kind are we drinking today?
It's the honey wheat. It's the one that you usually like that has the strawberry added to it, but they're out of that one.
Strawberry, peach, whatever. Yeah. It seems to be the one that gets the additive.
It's how you get your vitamin C.
Well,
Have you
some
eaten
would
any
say.
fruits and vegetables today? Yes, I had strawberry honey wheat. Okay.
Yeah, people would be like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Congratulations on
It
that.
checks out.
So one of the things that we do, you want to hand me that box that's right there? Yeah, just one of them. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So one of the things that Jill and I have done for a while, at least since this summer, we came up with it, or we didn't come up with this. There's a
came
company.
across.
We came across. That's a better description of it. It's a, I don't know if this is a game or a card game, but the idea is it's meant to spark conversation.
It is the coolest. When you say we came across this, you came across this.
Yeah.
And it is unbelievable, the conversations that it has
Sparked
between us. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
So it's the company is called The Skin Deep, and when we post this up on our Facebook page, we'll put the website down there. But it's literally like theskindeep.com. And so we were thinking about this, and we were kind of looking at it, going, well, what are we going to talk about here as we go into some of this stuff? And I think it just sounded fun to maybe sit down and think about this. And the one thing, the first question I have up, for the two of us here, and I don't know, we'll just throw out the questions, and if you want to answer or if I want to answer, whatever, it doesn't make a difference. I know you have some cards, and so do I. But one of the questions that's here, my very first one, I think is very timely because what was it, 2 weekends ago, we sat and we watched the Taylor Swift thing on Disney Plus where she talked about folklore.
It was amazing. She talked about it. She sang it. It was an experience.
Right. So then yesterday at like, I don't know, 9 in the morning or whatever, we see a tweet from, just getting like sent everywhere, that Taylor's come up with a sister album to this.
And all I can wait for is there better be another Disney special where she sits in a cabin in the woods and talks about her songs.
Right. So my first question goes to, what's the best use of my time right now? Because Taylor Swift has written 2 damn albums, and I feel like I haven't done anything.
So Taylor Swift has been great at using her time. I, however, have snacked a lot. Yeah. No, the greatest use of my time right now, a real easy answer. Not easy, but as an executive director of a senior living facility, a pretty good use of my time is keeping that afloat, right?
Yeah.
So I do that with my days.
Yeah.
This whole situation, I would love to say that this whole COVID situation, I've, learned yoga or exercised or taught myself some culinary skills. Although we've made some fantastic TikTok.
That's what we've done.
That's what we've done. We've been TikTok culinary creationists.
If you're not uncooking TikTok, that is one thing that you must do.
That's my answer. Because otherwise, I've been getting by. To be quite, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm not self-depreciating. But I've just been maintaining.
There's a lot of people that go out and they just picked up running, or they picked up biking or something like that. They just did something. I'm going to say that we picked up TikTok cooking. Like, I've cooked more this year at home than I ever have in the past.
We have made some really good stuff.
I know the cinnamon roll things in the
mini waffle maker.
Mini waffle maker, that's amazing.
I've at home, we did it together, and then at home with my son, I've probably made 50 tubes of cinnamon rolls in the mini waffle maker. It's all we do.
It's so good. I mean, that's a simple one, but we've gone down some real recipes and stuff on there, and that's
meals, desserts, the whole 9 yards. It's been awesome.
Those desserts were really good.
That apple one?
Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to remember to put that in the comments too, just so people see it.
Yeah, TikTok if you haven't signed up.
I mean, quite honestly, this crap about TikTok doing whatever, I don't care. I've learned how to cook.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. And I see people dance, some of them very well, some not. All of it entertaining.
Right now, the hot thing, at least that's popping up on my feed all the time, is dads putting up Christmas lights on the outside of their houses. And I'm like, the first thing in my mind, of course, because your son is always like, ooh, like your house is so tech, and it's not, but like, he thinks my house is very tech forward, and it's not. But I look at that, putting up the Christmas lights, and I'm like, yeah, that would make a big difference. That's amazing. And the whole thing I want to do is like, all right, well, let's get started on a project.
You have a remote control for your tree lights.
Yeah, but that's...
I realize in your world of techie people, it's not much, but in my little world of like mom, it's pretty awesome, really.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. I don't know. I just I try to find ways for things to be easier.
Yeah.
I think so. That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
So, what's your next question?
Well, all right. So I don't know if we can.
Wait, do I have to say something?
Well, yeah.
Should I go back and say if I've done anything? What's the best use of my time right now?
Yeah.
I don't know, a cheerleader, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
I'm the cheerleader of our teams.
Yes, absolutely.
At work, because
I don't laugh at your answer. I laugh because
of other conversations
Yes.
we've had. Yes. Which will be explained later, I'm sure. Gosh,
I'm
I really
sure.
hope so, because that's going to sound bad. But okay, so fine. Jill used to be a cheerleader.
yeah,
which is
nobody
in high
can
school.
believe it. Anybody who knows me is like, really? You were a cheerleader, huh?
Right.
And then Roman has been begging for photographic evidence.
I just need proof. I need
Yeah,
proof that
well-
it happened. I mean, you have the cheers down, and you don't need to do one now because
No, but give me 2 more 3BC beers and it's all I'll be doing. Cheers all night long.
you can hit the floor and clap. And
Oh,
do
it's
your
a
thing.
whole thing. You've
Yep.
seen it.
I have seen it. You and a couple of friends have done it. So.
Yeah, but now you need a picture. But anyway, no, you are a cheerleader, right? Like,
I just feel like with everything that everybody's going through, like
Yep.
like a lot of people's just dealing with stuff, right? But at work, when we talk about our teams, our executive directors, our nurses, that kind of stuff, that's where I can be most effective is trying to encourage that we're getting through this, trying to find resources that will help do the job
Yep.
a little bit easier every day. So that's kind of where I come from on it. I guess that's
and I think one really fascinating, or I don't know if it's fascinating, but one thing to point out about your ability to cheerlead is that you don't always come on our Zoom calls with all the directors and or nurses and say that everything's always going to be perfect. Sometimes you come on and you just start by saying, you know what, this really sucks and I've had a bad week.
Yeah.
And sometimes that in and of itself is the best cheerleading you can do, because this is what's happening right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we talk about how to make things better. So it doesn't always have to be about how everything is peaches and roses.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just acknowledging the human emotion that's happening right now. And
So
you're very good at that.
Thank you. One of the things I had somebody mention to me today too, they just asked, do you think you're going to continue to use Zoom after all this is over? And I said, yeah.
Yeah.
We were using it before, so it wasn't that big of a deal.
Right.
Now, for those of you guys who don't know, our company is spread out across the state of Minnesota, and we have one business in Wisconsin. And it's really hard to bring somebody down for an hour-long meeting,
Right.
or a conversation that's going to last like an hour. They're going to
Right.
drive 3 hours here, have an hour conversation, go home. That doesn't work. That's not effective. So like 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, we decided we're going to try this Zoom stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The hardest thing was getting people to turn their cameras on. Now, everybody, you said the other day, you think everybody likes turning their cameras on because they like to see each other again.
Absolutely.
Because we haven't been able to be together
Yep.
Since last February, when we basically all hung out in St. Paul at a conference. So we haven't really been around each other that much. So
Well, and you can have personal chats in Zoom. Not that I'm a salesperson for Zoom, but sometimes we'll be talking about something on the meeting and one of the directors or I will privately chat someone else and be like, oh my God, did you know this was a thing? And then, like you can have those relationships with your peers that are in the same boat that you are, to be able to say, hey, did you know about that? What do you know about that? What can you tell me about that? There's a lot of exchange of information that goes on. It's really nice. Yeah.
I am definitely looking forward to the day that we can all get back together. And
I
can't
wait.
I feel like the first time we get back together is not going to be like a standard educational type meeting. It's going to be like we just all need a big hug.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of looking forward to that day. Whenever that happens, I'm looking forward to it.
My plug is that it's a little more social
Yes.
than business, at least
Correct.
for the first few hours. Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping for as well. So, okay. So we
All
answered
right.
the first one.
So my question, and I think 5 is lofty here on a Friday afternoon, so keep that in mind.
Probably, especially 3BC in.
Exactly. List 5 experiences I must have before I die. So that's for me. You don't have to list the experiences I have to have. You can list the experiences you have to have
Okay. So the 5 experiences I have to have.
before you die.
Oh,
And 5, I feel like 5 is a lot. I have like 1, 2 that pop into my head, but you go.
there's some things that I do some photography stuff and I do senior living, obviously. There's a lot of things that kind of all come together, right? I have the one photography project that I would like to do with our residents someday. And hopefully when I can start traveling to buildings again after the vaccine is available, I'll be able to start working on that project a little bit more straightforward, right? And that's just basically kind of, and I won't get into the whole thing. We'll talk about that in a later podcast, but I think that's a good one. We've discussed this a couple nights ago. I really want to go see the Northern Lights in Iceland.
Yes.
Not here, because here is kind of a chase. Over there, you have a little bit better opportunity to go see it. So that's two. And I just feel like I've been to Norway. I'd like to go back there again. So that could be a third one, I suppose. I could throw out simple things like seeing my kids graduate from high school, seeing my kids graduate, or get married, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
That would be easy. I'm much more of an experience-based person.
Yeah.
So I look at things that I could do that I still want to go get accomplished. It isn't like, we've got to master a guitar. I'm not going to learn how to play guitar. I wish I could. I did at one time. It's been so long. We're talking like 7th grade. So I haven't picked up a guitar other than to mess around with it somewhat. And it's just not going to happen. So
you bring up an interesting point about this question. I feel like the difference between today me and 20, 25 years ago me, and how different the answers would be.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep. So for me, there is one thing I have that has stayed with me since I was, really a kid, a teenager. I'm not sure when this became a bucket list thing for me, but I have to be on a game show before I die. I grew up in my family. We didn't, sorry, Mom and Jean, we didn't, for, spewing this to the world, but we didn't really sit down at the table and eat dinner.
Well, yeah, who did, really?
No, nobody. We got our plates and we went into the living room and we all yelled at the TV at Wheel of Fortune, guessing letters. My sister Tammy can guess the puzzles in like 4 seconds flat. They're like 2 letters up and then my stepdad and I have a really strong relationship with, what's the Bob Barker one? The Price is Right. I know it's not Bob Barker anymore. Right. I know. And I just feel like it would be the ultimate, I won if I could get on and play Plinko. Yeah. When I was a teenager and would sleep till noon, 1 o'clock, Jean would, if Plinko came on, would fling my door open and scream, Plinko, Plinko, Plinko. And I'm, a curmudgeon-y teenager, So I need, and I don't even care what game show it is. If it could be one of those two, I could die happy. That moment, I could die happy.
I have great stories about Wheel of Fortune. So I've walked in on my dad. In my mind, Wheel of Fortune was always something that I walked into my grandparents, they'd be sitting there, on the couch.
Yeah, no.
Watching Wheel of Fortune. And so I've always attributed to that. I walked in once and my dad was watching Wheel of Fortune. I'm like, what is this?
See, I don't even view it as an old person.
No, I don't either. Because when I get on the treadmill, it's usually around the time Wheel of Fortune's on. So I'll watch it.
Yeah.
And I'll be solving, puzzles. If I wasn't on the treadmill, I'm not very good at it. But because my mind is thinking of something else, it frees it up. The other one, I had a friend on The Price is Right once, and he won.
Ooh.
Yeah, he won a lot of stuff. He won the grand thing at the end of it, or whatever it's called. You would
Showcase Showdown?
Yes. But I feel like your personality would be bouncing off the walls kind of stuff would be perfect for.
Oh, I kind of want to stand up and do a cheer right now just to get ready. So I need to be on a game show.
Yeah, there's some coaching that we could do ahead of time because especially since my buddy was on there once.
Oh gosh,
so he has some tips for you.
We got to do this. Anyway, I used to be really adamant that I wanted to skydive, and the older I get, honestly, ever since I had a kid, that went out the door. I don't know if I'll change my mind when he's, older, if I'll want to revisit this. I love the feeling of free falling. I love roller coasters. And when you go down one's just straight down, it's such an exhilarating feeling, but then it's over right away. And I've always wondered what happens when you get your stomach back and you're free falling. I also think it's really scary, and I will likely never do it.
See, I fell out of bed once, and it was one of those as you're falling down. So I've done the free fall thing. It's not as fun as it sounds.
Okay, that's maybe the best thing you've ever said. I've done free fall. I fell out of bed. What in the world?
Could you imagine? That's nightmare fuel. Walk up to the back of a plane and jump out. I'll dream about that the rest of my life. No, thanks. I'm not jumping out.
All right, we'll take that one off, maybe. No, and then honestly, I don't, like I said, I don't know if I have 5, but I go back to what you said earlier. Like, I want to live to be old. Mm-hmm. I would love to be a grandmother. That was going to be one on my list. But honestly, if Sam doesn't want to have kids, that's his choice, and I will never pressure him or his future partner to make that choice. You have to want children to do that. So, I just want to get old. Mm-hmm. I want to see what happens with my kid, with your kids, with people I know. I just want to see what happens with the world, with myself. Otherwise, I don't know. I love travel. Yeah. It's right now, any travel is very focused. It's very family focused, right? Being a mom. But as Sam gets older, Norway is incredibly appealing to me.
Yep. I'd like to go back there again.
Yeah, I've never been, so I'm very jealous. So yeah, but game show. Just get me on a game show. Happy redhead.
Okay, so I feel like I've got like 50 cards here. And
yeah,
I'm
kind of
flipping
4.
through. That feels very focused. So normally when you do this, you pick 6, and it's just random, and you just sit down and talk. But I think the next one I'm going to talk about here is who in my life gives me the most energy, and what would they tell me right now? So I feel like that's a really good question, and it's kind of twofold. Okay,
it really is.
Maybe 3. I get energy from being around my friends, and we all know that, like right now, that's just a sucky time to have that kind of energy.
Yep.
So, you can do all the Zoom calls you want with your friends, but it's not the same as, standing across standing in a group and kicking a inflated ball back and forth to each other, just because that's what we do when we're in our 40s, apparently. And I'm talking about
end up in the emergency room.
Well, I'm talking about my group, Bo and Ludo and Maddie and stuff like that. Being around those guys and just laughing and giggling. And I've got some text message things to play for you later. You're gonna laugh. Some voice messages. So it's that group of guys is like, they remind me of like what it should be like with your high school buddies still today, right? I've lost track of a lot of my high school friends, so it's hard to have that. So those guys are like that for me, And I've got Brian, who's just super encouraging all the time, and just feels like a brother for me, right?
Absolutely.
Then I've got my family, and then I've got you, and it's just like there's all this stuff, and I really get this energy from people. And I think the second question is, what would they tell me right now? Is that I would hope they would say, "There's light at the end of the tunnel. It's coming."
Yep.
Right. It might take us a little while to get there, but there's light at the end of the tunnel, so just hang on, because there are some definite up and down days in work and life and all that kind of stuff as we move through this little thing we like to call a pandemic.
Yeah. It's a great question. I would say, not to anybody who's listened to our previous podcast is not going to be surprised that my son gives me energy, a lot of energy. I really, really enjoy the role of being a mom. And what he would tell me right now, I think, is to try not to take it all so seriously. He's 8, he's almost 9. He's very in tune with the amount of stress I've been under in the last 9 months or so. He sees it, he knows what my job is, and he knows how important it is. But he also sees the effects that stress has on me. So I think he would tell me, because he's actually very expressive, and so he has told me that I'm a great mom, which is good to hear. But he would also tell me to just try to relax and let some of it go. I also get a lot of energy, like you said, from my friends, and you have sort of subsets of friends, right? One of my very best friend lives in the cities, and unfortunately we haven't had a chance to see a lot of each other, but she and I just can be 100% honest with each other. We can say, what's going on right now really sucks. It sucks that I haven't seen her. But but it doesn't even remotely diminish our friendship. We can rejoice in the victories and settle in the not victories, and we're good. I get a lot of energy from my family. I'm close with them. I get a lot of energy from you, and thankfully I get to see a lot of you, so that's really good for me and my soul. And then I'm really thankful to have some coworkers that they're coworkers, but I consider them friends, and we laugh and we cry and we, it's, and they would, I think what my coworkers would tell me is that we're going to do this. We're going to get through this. We've been doing a good job and we'll continue. But, that question just makes me realize our relationships with people are really important. And obviously, whenever I take any Myers-Briggs type tests, I think the last time I took it, I scored 99% extrovert.
Yeah.
So I'm relatively social and outgoing. And so I get my energy from people, and I'm surrounded by really good people. I'm really thankful.
Too. Yeah. There was a question I'd come across earlier, and I was going to bring it out, and I can't remember it word for word, but it's like, what's different between, previous Jill and now Jill?
Yeah.
And what have you learned?
Yep.
Right. And when I think about that, it is kind of like who I was back then. I'll go back to like the late 90s and that kind of stuff at my job right out of high school or out of college, that kind of stuff. I feel like I'm a much different person now than I was then. And, why? Is because you grow up, you have all these experiences that you get involved with and the opportunity to learn from all these different people and stuff like that. And I think there's just some of it that just comes with just life.
Yeah. And age.
Yeah. It's incredible because, for those that know me, I used to work in television news back in the day, and that's just a high stress job for 30 minutes blocks, like 35-minute blocks.
Yep.
Sometimes a little bit before, can just be a lot of stressful. And there's just sometimes where somebody just looks at you wrong and you're like, I don't have time for this, right? And now that whole thing, when I moved on to different jobs, all that just disappeared. So when I look back and say, yeah, that was fun to do, because I met a lot of really cool people back then. But boy, I made a lot of mistakes back then too. Stuff that I'm not super proud of, of how, I might have, in the heat of moment, you're circling something, you're telling somebody something, and it's not meant to come off that way, but it does. And what it reminds you of is how you talk to people matters, right?
Absolutely.
And like I said, it was a flip of a switch for me. I went to the new job and I just was a completely different person.
It's interesting because you and I both started careers in very different places than what we're doing now, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes I really, really wonder, what if my first career had been my second? What if I was doing that now? And what would be different with my age and sort of my settling into who I am and my outlook on the world? Would I still have left it? Would I have stuck with it? It's an interesting question.
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. I just don't know. I don't think I would have lasted there forever.
Yep.
Just people that don't work in television news forever. They just,
Yep.
moved out or moved on to the pasture, and you go do something else because you want to work days or whatever. It's just a hard gig to have.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. I just, between who I was before and what I am today is just two different people.
Yeah.
And I think, as I've talked to people that have, I've run into them over the years and stuff like that. I hope that they've seen the different person. That sometimes you ask about, what do you stay up at night about? Every once in a while that creeps in and be like, man, I wish I could go back and redo that and just say that particular
is a fascinating phenomenon, that a person can be up in the middle of the night, uber focused on something that happened 25 years ago.
Yeah.
I do it. I have friends that say they do it. It is what is wrong with our brains that can get us to focus on something that happened so long ago?
I know.
And worry about it. And
I tell this. I've told this story in private. I've never really told this out public, and so you're going to get a story. I'm not sure if I've ever told you this before.
Ooh. Let me refill your beer while you tell it.
Yeah, fine. That's I'm not gonna deny that at all. So I consider her a friend today. We've talked on social media, that kind of stuff. We've kind of all grown up, but she came to the evening shift with us. Right? She came to be one of the anchors at the TV station, and once upon a time, I was just critiquing. I was told by one of the bosses at the time, here's what you need to do. If somebody, does something wrong in one of their stories that they're doing, like a jump cut or whatever, I want you to make a note of it and put it in there. I don't know if they felt like they weren't getting enough out of me or what it was, but it just kind of felt like it was an odd question. So for a month, I would, critique, and I'm going to use that word very lightly because it wasn't really a critique. It was just hey, by the way, right? That's how I was interpreting it. She was interpreting it like, this dude's a jacket wagon, right? Who the heck does he think he is, right? And I had no idea.
Yep.
So, but she came to our shift. She was on the morning show ahead of time, and then she came to the night shift, and for weeks. Now I'm the senior newscast director. She's one of the lead anchors, and we're just not talking for no reason. I just think she doesn't like me, and I guess she thought I didn't like her.
Sure.
So we're in recording, very similar to what we're doing right now, right? She used to record it wasn't a podcast back then, but it was something that our station did for one of the hospitals in the area. And she's turned to me, it's just stopped right in the middle, and I was just sitting there recording, listening in my headphones, and she turned to me and she goes, "Why don't you like me?" And I stopped and I was like, "Huh? What?" And she said, "Why don't you like me?" I said, "I like you just fine. I was so taken back by the question."
Yep.
Because I didn't really think anything of it. I thought she didn't like me. But what it highlights for me, and like I said, after that, it was great. Talked all the time.
Good for her to just lay it out,
I was so
right?
happy she said something.
Yeah.
Because I had no idea that I was doing something wrong at all. So what it highlights for me is the importance of going to the source.
Yep.
And talking to that person, saying, "Hey, we got an issue. I don't know what's going on here, but this makes me uncomfortable." And sometimes the other person doesn't know anything about it. Mm-hmm. So I know that was kind of a long ways to go around it, but I took that experience and said, okay, there's always going to be two sides to every story. Mm-hmm. I'm going to listen to everybody when they've got a complaint of some sort, because it might just be an interpretation of what's going on in their life, their perception of whatever's going on.
Yep.
And sometimes it just takes that opportunity to sit down. So I look back and then I tell that story whenever I have somebody that works for us that is struggling with somebody else. Mm-hmm. Well, let's all sit down and just have a conversation, because sometimes that's where it comes from. So, and like I said, we talk now today every once in a while. So it's, I feel really good that we had that conversation and thankful for it, actually.
Oh, I could talk for hours about management, people's perceptions, truth, perception of truth. It's a fascinating. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
My most cringeworthy moments when I look back in time at myself are my early years of management.
Yep.
And how you just get it wrong.
Yep.
A lot.
Yep.
But all you can do is learn from it and try to do better the next time. So yeah.
There are people that learn from their mistakes, and there are the ones that just keep making them.
Oof, yeah.
And that involves a lot of
It doesn't feel good to learn from your mistakes, because you have to really own
what
them
you said,
and
what
your
you
flaws,
did, or whatever.
what you did. But
my situation, quite honestly, I would get a script, and if there was because back in the day we used to edit tape. Mm-hmm. It wasn't great with computers. You just overlay and it works.
Yep.
It's just amazing. But it would be like a jump cut, or the audio would be bad or whatever. And I would just make a big circle on it and write bad audio. And it was in giant letters, but I was in the middle of a TV show, trying to direct a TV show. The last thing I had to do was write a very watered down paragraph about how something was wrong.
Right.
So I think when we both got on the same page with that made it really easy. So I just, like I said, I think it's very important just to sit down and have a conversation with people too. So,
well, speaking of a conversation, do I have a question for you?
Okay.
What is your superpower?
Man. That comes, that's a great question. And I'm not going to turn it back around on you, because I don't think that's fair. When somebody, that's happened to us a couple of times already, when we've been talking to people about being on the show or whatever.
Yeah, and you ask them a difficult question and they're like, well, what do you
think?
Is your superpower? I don't know. I'm asking you.
So in a way, I'm doing that right now as my mind is racking away. I don't know. So I think when it comes to superpowers, I think I feel, anyway, that I have a decent ability to listen.
Yes.
When people are having a rough time or they're trying to work through something, whatever, I feel like I have the ability to sit down and just hear them out.
Yep.
It could be work related, it could be personal related, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
But the ability to sit down and just listen, I think. So I think that's what mine is.
When I read this question, because obviously, we're all, you think about yourself, right? So I'm like, how am I going to answer this question on the air? It's easy for me to ask you the question, but how am I going to answer it? And I don't exactly know what it is about me that makes this my superpower. I don't feel like I try to do it. People feel really comfortable with me really quickly. I've had experiences where people are sharing things about themselves, their lives, their problems, their issues in under an hour of knowing me. And in my head, I'm like, wow, like you trust me with this piece of information. And I get that really quickly from people. Now, and I say that not at all implying that it's a burden. And why do I think it's my superpower? I think that when people trust you, it makes you a good leader. I think that you can build a culture more easily when people trust you and what you're saying. And I get little snippets of it not every time, but a lot of times when I hire someone new and how quickly they share with me what's going on in their lives. At the same time, I really do understand that people like to be heard, talk about themselves. I don't mean that negatively, but people, you definitely are a very good listener. It's not a skill a lot of people have, unfortunately. And so people, maybe I'm just quiet long enough that people tell me, although anybody listening is like, you're not quiet long enough. But no, I think people trust me. And I'm thankful for that, and I hope that I've used that superpower wisely. But
that's kind of what I feel like. I hope that I've used it wisely. I don't know. We've been clipping along pretty good here. Like we've put a dent in the time, which is really great.
Have we? Because it feels like we've been talking for 7 minutes.
Correct. So here's what I think we should do. I think we pick one of your cards, your favorite one that's left. And then that's what we're gonna say. So each one of us got one. We each have one question left.
Okay.
I'm gonna guess that you want me to go first.
It doesn't matter. You decide, actually.
Okay. Here's what I want you to do.
Yep.
And those that are listening along, I want you to do the same thing. You don't have to type it in the comments. This could be very personal for you. It doesn't matter. And same thing for you. I'm gonna try and play along too. Okay. So here's what I want you to do.
Okay.
Close your eyes.
Okay.
Take 3 deep breaths. So let's go in. Here's one. Take one more. Exhale, and let's do one more. All right. What image or memory comes to mind, and what is it telling you?
Oh. I don't know.
I have one.
You go then, because I was just happy to be closing my eyes and breathing.
Breathing for a second, right? There was that element there too, I'm not going to lie. So here's what comes down to me. So we're coming into this holiday season, right? And I was telling you the story the other night too about growing up Christmas. What did you spend it at home? What was your traditions? That kind of stuff, right? And mine was kind of scattered after a certain age, but I definitely remember crawling in the window because my parents locked ourselves out of the house after Christmas, service at the church, right? So we go back home. We're all locked out. I seem to remember both grandparents being there, I think, and my parents, my sister and I, right? So I was small enough where they could lift me up, push me in the window, and go down. But what came and unlock the doors and all that kind of stuff. And they told me, don't look at the Christmas tree. But what did I do as like a 7-year-old kid?
Looked at the Christmas tree.
I peeked at the Christmas tree. And that image of the white lights on the Christmas tree and the fireplace behind them. And it gave me do you remember what it was like to go buy like a Christmas tree and, like all that stuff? It just feels like there was a nostalgia about Christmas when I was like under 10.
Oh,
that doesn't exist
absolutely.
anymore. It's very commercial now and all this kind of stuff. And there's just this, you go home and you'd have hot chocolate, or you go home and you'd sit in front of a fire, or you just sit and like stare at some gifts or whatever, and dreaming about Santa Claus coming and all that kind of stuff. That's
But you know
where
what I
went
think is
to.
really cool about what you just said? You were like, when I was under 10, there was something magical about Christmas that doesn't exist now. But it does. It just exists for our kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't get the commercial aspect of Christmas. They don't see the stress that comes with the shopping and the money and the wrapping and the winter. They just experience the nostalgia of Christmas that we think is sometimes gone.
Yep.
But it isn't. It isn't for them. It is so real for them. And that is just cool.
Yeah. That is cool.
Yeah.
See? You're rearranging my thought process. All right. You have a question.
All right. So,
Or do you want to answer that too?
I don't know that I didn't have an image when I took
didn't have
deep
an
breaths. And here's why. All I was concerned about was that all the listeners were going to hear was my breathing.
Yeah. No, but I did it on purpose. Like I breathed into the mic so that people could follow along with their
Yeah.
breathing.
And I was like, oh, they're going to hear me breathing. And
I know.
that seems weird.
Have you gotten that since we started doing this? Is like episode 4 or something like that now, and it seems like every time I'm doing this, even when I listen to it back, I'm like, can you hear me? Like I heard myself breathe right there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh.
I think I almost passed out in the first one because every time you were talking, I was like holding my breath. I'm like, oh my God, they're going to hear me breathe.
It's so true.
Like, what's the fear? We all breathe. It's not even embarrassing. Like, it's
My fear right now is you're going to hear me sipping on this beer, and that's a whole other item. So
all right. So I don't know that I had a vision, but when you talk about Christmas, I just it sparked in me this. And I had excellent Christmases as a kid. But when I think of Christmas, I actually think of Christmases as an adult, and as my family grew, how many of us are there? There's like 20, 25 of us. The talking, the laughter, the wine, the irritation. Yeah. There's definitely like not outright arguing, but underlying annoyances. It's a family, right? Like, yep. My mom's favorite saying is like, we put the fun in dysfunction, and she thinks it's hilarious.
I can't wait for her to listen back to this.
Okay, yeah.
Part and be like,
hey mom.
Hey, mom.
But and then I just think about like the table and how long it is, and then how as the grandkids or my nieces and nephews have gotten older and had relationships, then we need an extra table, and the food is going around, and just the whole amazing commotion.
Yeah.
And how I have no idea if that's going to happen this year, but if it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But it fills my heart with warmth, and I will never forget. It was 2 or 3 years ago. My niece Abby was in her late teens, early 20s, and I overheard her say to her cousin, Grace, you know, it used to be that I was so excited to come to Christmas because of the presents. Mm-hmm. And now, like, the most exciting thing for me is like the meal and seeing everybody.
Yeah.
And I remember just thinking that you know, the presents are great, whatever, they are what they are, but they're exciting when you're under the age of 12.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's just the sense of family, belonging, being part of that bigger thing that happens. I have a great family, so yeah, we'll see.
I haven't been able to be a part of my extended family's Christmas in a long time, but I remember being all of it. We used to talk about it, and we might have even talked about it at my grandma's funeral this past summer. But we all used to get together at my grandparents' place, and all the kids would go into the basement, and it would just be a free for all. Like, you know, we'd make of all things, we would make commercials with the video camera. We would put plays out. You know, we'd do all sorts of stuff.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, yeah. They had bumper pool table stuff, whatever. But I distinctly remember how easy it was to fall asleep in the basement when I could hear the parents upstairs, my aunts and uncles. They're upstairs playing card games and hooting and hollering and laughing, the whole thing.
And you just hear the dull roar.
Yeah.
Just puts you to sleep. Yep.
The easiest sleep I've ever had is when we could hear our parents upstairs. Mm-hmm. There was like a security blanket there.
Yeah. And they're happy. They're laughing. They're talking. You don't know what they're saying, but it's there.
Nope. All you could hear was like a murmur and then just loud laughter because somebody won a game.
Yep.
And it was, oh gosh, those were so much fun. Like those stories, I think, like in our lives, we don't tell enough.
Nope.
And we certainly don't reminisce about that stuff until it's like, oh, we've got to get together for a funeral. And
isn't that the truth? Like when you talk about falling asleep like that, my entire childhood involved, my bedroom was right at the top of the stairs. Right at the bottom of the stairs was Jean's chair. And my falling asleep experience my entire childhood was rustling of papers and the underlying noise of the news.
Yeah.
And if we went somewhere as a family and got home late and everyone went to bed at the same time, I could not fall asleep.
Yeah.
Because there was no news. There was no rustling of the newspaper. Sometimes there was the clanking of the spoon in the cereal bowl, which was like his like evening snack. It was the best sound. It's just, like you said, it's like a security blanket.
Yeah.
And my mom, I could hear her footsteps as she's folding laundry and doing whatever, she did. But it's just the best sound.
Somebody asked me once, if you had an opportunity to go back and do all that all over again, would you? And like part of you always goes like, no, but to go back and experience that one more time and to see all four of my grandparents, one more time.
Yep.
That's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm going to end on I don't want to say it's a deep question, but it's there. What makes you feel love? Not loved, love. What makes you feel love?
This is two questions in a row. Like I feel I have to turn back around on you right away. But,
yeah.
Because it's a deeper question. I think, you can talk about like, love languages and stuff like that. And that's not the direction I'm going to go, I think. I think what I feel like is when there's a moment when you can tell that people truly care about you. Mm-hmm. Like they truly connect. They truly value you as being there. That's what I feel like when
Yeah.
Right? That's when you feel like you're appreciated, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
It could be at work. It could be at home, whatever. But when you feel the presence and you feel that other people value your input or your whatever you bring to the table.
Yeah.
That's when I feel like, oh yeah, this person actually likes me.
Well, now why'd you go take my answer?
So.
No, I was going to say something very similar. Just a sense of being heard, understood, cared for. I think the easy way to answer this question is with family and the concept of unconditional love. I think the harder answer to this question is like the concept of unconditional love that isn't your family, isn't your parent, isn't your child. To be able to look at somebody that isn't, honestly, to me, your parent or child and say, there is nothing you could do that would make me not love you. Mm-hmm. You might make me angry. You might disappoint me. We might fight, but there's literally nothing you could do that would make me not love you. Is sort of a higher level of love that I hope everybody gets. And I think getting there is the concept of hearing, being heard, being understood, being cared for, listened to. Yeah, all of that. So I would agree.
Yeah, great answer, I think. I don't know. I feel like today's been, one of those that I kind of had fun doing this.
I loved this.
We're like 48 minutes.
Oh my God, I could go on.
So, I know we could sit and talk about this for a while.
But we'll let you guys go now.
We'll let you guys go. We've talked long enough, I think, here. Join us next week, 2 weeks from now. Yep. And we're going to have Steve Gosser on. Steve Gosser is the, he's got a great title, and it's not Chief Appreciation Officer, Chief Evangelist.
Chief Evangelist of Vivid Image.
Yeah, and I love the title, but he's going to come in. We're going to talk about leadership stuff. We're going to talk about personal development.
You don't want to miss it. He's fabulous.
Exactly. I really want to get into developing your 3 words rather than getting into why New Year's resolutions don't work and stuff like that. Yep. Because I think it's the perfect time. We'll be heading into that week of Christmas, so you'll be thinking about it already. So don't miss that one. So, all right, to keep up to date on future podcasts, you can follow us on our Facebook page, Hometown Conversations. You can also subscribe to our podcasts on multiple streams, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We'll keep adding them to the Facebook page as we get added to more. If you'd like to be on the podcast or have an idea for an episode, send us a note through Twitter or on Facebook. Thank you to all of you guys who continue to listen, every single time we come out and do this thing. It's a pet project of ours, and we just really, really enjoy doing it, and we like hearing the feedback from you. So have a great week, and we will see you all next time in 2 weeks.